What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the Gray Area with your host, It's That Kid Greg. So for this one, we are doing something entirely different, and I'm actually doing, well, not entirely different. I'm doing a video response, but a full video response to a man by the name of Scott Turner Schofield. Schofield? I don't know how to, whatever. So he has made a video. It's a TED-Talk, actually, called Ending Gender, and I'm going to respond to it and his ideas. So, with that being said, let's get started.
Would you believe I was almost homecoming queen in high school? Picture it. Football fields, fluorescent lights, Miss Congeniality on one side, Miss Best Dressed on the other, and me.
Okay, this adds nothing to the actual content, so please just get on with it. Also, humble brag is humble brag. Yeah, look, I was a prom queen in high school. Meh.
I'm not talking about what's happened in the last 6 months, where the first ever transgender homecoming queen was elected by a group of her peers, and a homecoming king-to-be could not become because his driver's license said he was female, and so the school district stopped it. I'm talking about 1997, where all I knew was that I was gay because Ellen DeGeneres was also gay, and that made sense to me. I did not know the word transgender. I had no idea what I would become or what I could become, and these words, they matter. So let's look at some words. I call this social algebra. We do this equation all the time. For instance, me, I'm standing here, my gender, in this transitive property, right? This transitive equation. I'm standing here looking like a dude, right? And so we imagine that what's in my pants is what's in my pants. What's hormones I have are what hormones I have. I have X's and Y's floating all through my blood. And that because we live in a world where everything is heterosexual until proven innocent, that I must be a straight guy. Although I don't get many people thinking I'm a straight guy, which is fine with me.
Okay, 1. I'd be shocked if anyone thought you were straight. And 2, your equation is misleading. While most people connect sex to gender, understandably so, sexuality is usually judged on an individual's own actions and mannerisms. You joke about how people don't peg you as straight, but your little equation totally disregards that. Your voice isn't very deep or masculine, and you have some very camp and girlish movements, but appearance-wise, you're passing very, very well. So people assume gay male. So your equation is actually 2 equations. 1 would be sex equals gender, and 2 would be sexuality equals sex plus or minus gender-specific characteristics. I think that's much more indicative of how people think.
All of these terms have a lot of values associated with them. They are predicated on our opinions of disability, ethnicity, environment, religion, moment in time, culture, age, educational access, body size, place, race, economic class. There are as many definitions of sex, gender, and sexuality as there are people in this room. I'm willing to bet.
You're willing to be because you're overcomplicating something very simple. Like, how would body size, religion, and ethnicity play into defining gender? It seems like you're just amping up the intersectional third waiver hype train.
To the next, there we go. Me, I identify as a female to male transsexual with a transgender queer identity.
Huh?
We'll get to the story in a second. When I'm talking about sex, I'm talking about biology. Chromosomes, hormones, genitals, secondary sex characteristics, right? Simple. These are some words that you may have heard that describe sex. Female, male, intersex. Intersex is a word that you may have also heard referred to as hermaphrodite. This is not an okay term to use. People who are intersex call themselves intersex, and that is what we respect, right?
Well, yeah, going on your intersex point, the term hermaphrodite is inaccurate anyway. A true hermaphroditic organism can both be the father and mother of a child simultaneously, while most intersex people are actually sterile. So yes, it's insensitive, but it's also scientifically wrong. So correcting people shouldn't be a matter of, oh, well, this is how they feel. It should be a matter of, no, you're wrong and here's why.
And then there's transsexuals. Let's talk about moment in time. Some people tell me that I am oppressing myself by calling me transsexual. I just like the precision of it. I'm telling you that I am a female to male, right? I have gone from female to male, changing my sex characteristics with hormones and surgery.
Yeah, fuck those people. I know this isn't mainly on topic, but if you decide to call yourself something or identify one way, that's on you. Unless you're actively doing harm to yourself or others around you, it's no one's business what you call yourself.
There are male to male, one way or the other, but you don't have to have surgery. You don't have to use hormones to be trans, because trans is about gender.
What? No, seriously, that just undermines everything you just laid out. Your claim was that you liked the term transsexual because of its precision. The word tells the person in one instance you have transitioned from one sex to the other by use of hormone therapy and surgery. If the transition doesn't require any of that, then what is the point of being trans? Why would someone like you, who has clearly put in a lot of work to convincingly pass as a man, do any of that if it was that simple?
And gender is about culture, society, and personhood, right? In the culture, it's an expectation of a role you're gonna take. Socially, it's a presentation or a performance. Remember, I showed up, look, I'm a white guy, right? So you're either really into what I'm saying, or you're kind of suspicious of what I'm saying, or you're not really sure, right? It's your perception and my performance. Does that make sense?
So here, you're equating gender with gender roles, to my understanding. Gender is how your brain is wired, while sex is your physical characteristics. While most people have these matching up from day one, some, like yourself, don't, which is why people spend ridiculous amounts of money to present outward what they feel inward. The culture and social expectations you refer to are gender roles, which have evolved alongside the human species based on the specific abilities of each sex. Women can have babies and produce milk, so their role traditionally is child-rearing, while males are physically stronger, so traditionally the hunters, aka the breadwinners. Also, I'm suspicious of you because I sense an agenda, not because you're white. Carry on.
And the deal is, I know what my identity is, whether or not you see it. So, I'm gonna give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. There's transgender, like me, and cisgender, like many of you. Cis meaning same, meaning that your sex and your gender match up. Cisgender people are not normal people, they are just common people.
No, this is one thing I hear that really bothers me. Cisgender people aren't just more common, they're the most common, aka the normal. All normal means is that the group falls in the middle of the bell curve, with the middle of the bell curve representing where most things in that sample lie. Everything left or right of that middle section is considered a deviation, which is where trans people fall in relation to cis people, a deviation from the norm. And that's not an insult. All that says is that you're different from the vast majority, which can be a good thing. Geniuses like Einstein, Mozart, and Da Vinci were all deviations from the norm in one way or another. If they were all upset about being different, we might never have the theory of relativity or Beethoven or any of Mozart's beautiful compositions or Da Vinci's Last Supper. What it seems like you want is that trans people be more openly accepted in society. But lying to yourselves about where you stand doesn't help that cause at all. And it actually probably hurts it in the long run.
Here are some other words that we've heard to describe gender. Man, woman, boy, girl, androgynous, metrosexual, butch, femme, tomboy, sissy. I'll give you another word that showed up about 8 years ago, genderqueer. This is an oppositional term, right? It's a term that says, I'm not gonna go into any box you've made for me, thank you very much, enjoy the spectacle, okay?
Okay, other than man, woman, boy, and girl, none of those words actually define gender. All of them are just words associated with individual presentation of oneself in relation to their sex. A girl being called a tomboy isn't a statement on her gender, but how she expresses herself based on her sex. In this case, being a tomboy is expressing masculine qualities despite being biologically female. This has no bearing on whether or not she is internally female.
Here are some more words to describe gender. I'm not going to go through them all, okay? You can look later. This term came around in the last couple of years. It's trans with an asterisk. I love this. You're reading along, right, and you see a word with an asterisk after it, and you look for the footnote. Guess what? This means I can write my own definition of what my journey has been. Love it.
Except no one is going around asking you for your journey. Again, you're overcomplicating something that is really simple. Look at some of the words you have up there. Unicorn, third gender, omnigender, boy with an I instead of a Y, and my personal favorite, fish. Like, what the actual fuck does any of that mean? Look close and you can see FTF and MTM. Based on the notation, I assume you're referring to someone who is transitioned, but the letters are the same on both sides of the T. How the fuck are you transitioning from male to male? You've taken simple concepts and made them impossible for anyone not living in this little echo chamber to understand. It makes no sense. Like, how far up your ass do you have to shove your own head for any of this to make proper sense?
Let's go to sexuality. We're talking about attraction and behavior, right? Which are not always the same thing. So some words that you've heard, gay, lesbian, bisexual, queer, right? Notice that transgender is not here, even though we talk about the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, GLBTQ, right? A transgender person can be gay, lesbian, bisexual, or queer, but it's different from their attraction and behavior. Here are a bunch of other words that describe sexuality. And I know I'm missing some here. And I hate missing words, because if I miss out a word, what I'm telling you is that I don't value who you are. What I'm telling you is that who you are doesn't deserve a word. What I'm telling you is that you're invisible, that you don't get a community, that you don't get to be who you are in print.
So this last section is interesting because it delves into the psychology, the mindset of identity politics. Like I mentioned in my previous video, I'll put the link up, a lot of the people who get caught up in all the language policing and pronouns and such just want to be noticed. They want to stand out from the crowd and deviate from the norm because they are insecure and want validation. We don't have a word for every kink under the sun because we don't need them. Your numbers are not large enough to be statistically relevant for that. If there's someone out there who specifically likes to, I don't know, whose his only goal in life is to fuck socks, we don't need a word for that. That's just one thing, one person who likes that one thing specifically.
I know I'm missing a word. I hate it when I miss words. What's the word I'm missing? Oh, right, heterosexual. I always forget that one.
Okay, never mind. You're just being a smarmy dick.
Let's go to my identity. Let's talk about me. So, as I told you, I'm a female to male transsexual. I have changed my sex characteristics through the use of hormones and surgery. I have a gendered experience of a transgender man because no matter how much of a man I become, I will always be a man who was on the homecoming court in high school and went to 3 debutante balls in a dress. All right?
We get it. Straight guys in high school wanted to bang you. Get on with it.
Let's say, though, let's just imagine that I'm hopelessly, madly, deeply in love with a cisgender woman. That's a woman who is female. When we get jiggy with it, are we lesbians? Are we straight? Are we queer? This equation doesn't work.
No shit, it doesn't work. I broke down why it doesn't work earlier. That's just a straw man that doesn't address nuance or gray areas.
It just leaves us with question upon question upon question upon question. But as a transgender person, I'm pretty used to questions. I started with the question that I'm pretty sure, I hope, every single one of you in this room has asked, right? Who am I?
Okay, well, most people don't have dysphoria or identity issues, so no, most of them probably haven't asked that question.
But when your answer to who you are shows that you are different in a way as fundamental as what gender is in our society, it leaves you with some more questions. Will my family disown me? Will my friends accept me? Will I be fired from my job? Will I be able to get a job? Will my marriage still be legal? Will I be able to parent my kids? Will this cost me? Will I take hormones? Will I have surgery? Which surgeries? How do you change everything? Your birth certificate, your social security card, your passport, your credit cards, your diplomas. Which bathrooms can I use? Will my faith community expel me? What do I say in the airport? Will I be sent home for how I'm dressed? What will this cost me? Can I be all of myself? Will this affect my visa? Am I crazy? Do I pass? Who is going to love me?
And there it is. People just want to be accepted. People want to be loved for who they are. All the previous questions are kind of irrelevant because undergoing such a process is not and should not be simple. Making trivial all the work people like yourself have done to be who they want to be will only lead to people making choices they'll regret because they didn't understand the magnitude of it. There's already a website for this that exists, and it is very concerning that we already have people who are like, hey, I thought this is what I wanted, but it turns out it's not because they were told early on that this is what they must be, which seems to be what you're entirely against. So I don't know why you would be talking about it like that now.
And then there's the questions that other people ask. There's only a few of them. Are you finished? Have you had the surgery? What's your real name? Are you fully transitioned? Should you be in this bathroom? What are you legally? What is it? These questions, they just make us other.
Yes, you may feel othered by those questions, but guess what? You are an other. And again, that's not a bad thing, but you need to understand that this is reality here. On another note, most of those questions, while prying, aren't necessarily rude. It's just people seeking out information, which is how things change, which is how things get better for people in your situation. Knowledge about something that you don't know makes it less scary, which makes it more accepted.
But I take solace in all of those words. I love this representation of our equation because I think it more accurately reflects the way that we all probably experience our sex, our gender, and our sexuality. And I also think of it as like a crowd. If you all wore little definitions over your heads and I looked down from above, right? It gives us so many opportunities to check the other box. And if we're all other, can any of us be othered?
Yes, because if the majority of people fall into a similar camp, people who deviate will become a minority. Plus, trying to drop little definitions on everyone is a surefire way to create segregation, which I would like to think you're against.
My moonshot is to end gender.
What?
See, I've already been to the moon and back, and so have all the people in this little slideshow. We're living proof of how what you see doesn't have to be what you get, how sex does not have to equal destiny, how you can change and change and change again, and that is a rich life history, not something to be feared or marginalized. I think about the way that in our culture we tisk and tut over other cultures where women have to pray in other spaces or eat in other rooms, and I think to myself, in our Western colonial secular culture, we just do that in our minds to one another. We create these invisible walls to slam up against, to keep people out, to box ourselves in. So ending gender would mean tearing all of those down. But I'm not necessarily advocating for revolution here. I mean, it could just be as simple as painting your toes, guys.
First off, the fact that you're even able to transition is a sign of the success of Western culture. You'd be killed in plenty of other countries for that. Second, you are calling for revolution. Ending gender would be the breaking down of fundamental biological differences between people. It's ingrained in humans to such a degree that trying to remove it would be the active removal of people's free will, since most of us are within the statistical norm. And what you're advocating for is a needs of the few outweigh the needs of the many ideology, which does not work.
Ending gender would look like, well, it would look like getting to the root of what gender is. Isn't gender just a cry for beauty?
What? Where did you get that from? Beauty is a completely subjective standard, while gender is not. Gender can be physically observed and studied, while beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Someone might go to the MoMA and look at an art piece and say it is the most brilliant thing they have ever seen, while I might look at it and say, oh, look, Yoko Ono is just bullshitting again.
What if we just let everyone be as beautiful as they want to be? What if we respected and celebrated whatever beauty is? What if we let go of our expectations, our limitations? Have you ever seen a man wearing high heels and men's clothing? I mean, a power shoe is a power shoe, okay?
No, because what I bet you did not know is that high heels actually serve a purpose to females specifically. The shape of the high heel actually lifts up the buttocks and the breasts on the female, making them more eye-catching to potential males. They are literally designed to attract guys. This is why guys don't wear them.
If we let go of our expectations, if we let go of our limitations, that's what I'm talking about in ending gender. I'm not advocating for us all shaving our heads and wearing baggy clothing. I want us to be beautiful, and I want us to be celebrated using all of the tools of gender, all of the tools of beauty that we have.
Scott, people already do this. You, me, everyone already does this. The fact is that the majority of people are cisgendered and heterosexual. Therefore, they express the beauties of their own gender in order to attract the other gender. This is not difficult to understand, Scott. Saying that we're being put into a box for expressing our natural desires and acting on our own biology is intellectually dishonest, and you're standing on a stage speaking it out like it's fact, and it's not.
Ending gender would mean advancing the use of a third pronoun, a gender-neutral pronoun in English, Z and here. Z went to the store and bought here mom some shoes. Or if you like, for Z so loved the world, Z sent here only child. It's so powerful, and it includes so many more people.
We don't need any new pronouns. He, she, and they work fine. There's no need for adding Z and here and Zai and star, whatever. Adding more words that ultimately serve no purpose just bogs down the language and leads to people being more confused. Why is this so difficult to understand? The fact of the matter is there are not enough people to constitute adding an entire new pronoun, fundamentally changing the basis of the English language. It doesn't need to happen. It's not necessary. I'm sorry to say it so harshly, but you guys simply are not that important in the long run.
Ending gender would mean ending these words, these limiting words that never quite fit, these limiting labels. I mean, if it doesn't matter for the presidency, if it doesn't matter for the Federal Reserve, if it doesn't even matter for health insurance anymore, would it kill you to go into a bathroom that's just like your bathroom at home that's not sex segregated? Would it grind society to a halt if my driver's license did not tell the cop pulling me over for speeding that I am a man or a woman?
No, it wouldn't grind society down to a halt, but it would identify you, Scott. This is the whole point of gender pronouns. This is why they exist. If your driver's license doesn't say male and doesn't say female, and all it says is blonde Zier between 5'8" and 5'10", How are they supposed to know that it's you that they are going after? How are they supposed to distinguish you from any other 5'8" to 5'10" blonde somebody? It's just a matter of categorizing people in order to make life simpler for everyone. There's literally no reason to get rid of these words.
Ending gender means leaving us all with stories. So I'll leave you with a story. That last picture was of Royce. And I've known Royce for a very long time. In fact, Royce has known me so long, he knew me when I was Katie, the best girl babysitter ever. His parents explained, Katie is a man now, and he wants us to call him Scott. Do you have any questions? Royce replied, no, because we already have secret agent names for one another, and anyway, it makes perfect sense that he's always really been a boy, kind of like how at the end of Scooby-Doo, you know, when they pull off the mask? But he's brought his friend Elsbeth, and Elsbeth doesn't know me from anybody. She's just here for dinner and a movie. So right in the middle of building one last fort before dinner, Royce turns to Elsbeth and says, Scott used to be a woman, but now he's a man. A man! Then something occurs to him. He looks at me, he says, how did you do that? Elsbeth looks horrified. It's not the gender confusion. I can read this very clearly. It's that at this point in her young Southern life, she's been trained not to point, not to stare, not to ask prying questions. Meanwhile, I'm confronted with the delightful opportunity of explaining transsexualism and gender identity to 4-year-olds. How did I do it? Well, Royce, you see, I really, really, really wanted it. I figured that was an age-appropriate response, right? You do really, really, really have to want it. But I really, really want to be a girl, a woman! He says, unself-conscious and totally sure. So I take this moment to end gender. I just affirm the child. You want to be a girl? That's great. Believe the child. You know, you're perfect just the way you are. Love the child. What's a woman?
And that right there is why we don't teach children about transsexualism. This kid's first response to you saying that you wanted to be something that you weren't was, well, I want to be something that I'm not. And then his next question immediately was, what's a woman? He clearly didn't understand the gravity of what he was asking for. And so trying to make it easier for children to make this decision is ultimately damaging and could lead to some serious consequences down the line. And I hope that your response to him at this point was something appropriate, although I'm not sure because you said you were going to take the chance to end gender here.
Look, I don't actually want to be having this conversation, okay? A lot of people have a lot of opinions about transgender people being around children in general, right? And those things all went in. So I'm freaking out. I just want to put the kids inside the fort. I just want to go make dinner. I do not want to be having this conversation. But they're both staring at me so intently, so I say, what's a woman? Amazing you would ask me that, Elsbeth. A woman is, this is the first time this child has ever been taught gender. What am I going to say? A woman can be anything. And anyone can be a woman as long as she is smart and strong. Therefore, you, Royce, and you, Elsbeth, could each become women if that's what you choose, because you're both of those things. And you know what, Elsbeth? I think a lot of women would really like your shoes.
That's your response? A woman can be anything? I mean, listen to yourself, man. You, a trans person, someone who was once a female and who has transitioned to male, and now you are saying that a woman can be anything. If that is the case, then what was the point of your transition? Teaching children that gender is not existence, that it shouldn't exist, only leads to, one, undermining your own life circumstances and your own story, and two, going to lead to confusion down the line. This is a child we're talking about. They are innocent. They have no understanding of life and history and anything beyond what their elders tell them. And here you are telling this child that a woman can be anything when you of all people should know the difference between a man and a woman, Scott.
What about my shoes? Cries Royce. He's got these sneakers that light up at the back. And I say, Royce, when I was a kid, when I was a woman, I had the exact same shoes. You see, women are all different, and so are all men. And there are even people who are different from women and men, and you can become whatever you choose. Let's think about it for a second. What could you be? A baseball player, crane operator. They overlap. Exactly. Like I said, ending gender means starting stories. And that's all I'm asking. Is that so revolutionary? Thank you.
Okay, so for this last point, I just want to address the fact that upon you complimenting Elsbeth's shoes, the little boy Royce immediately says, "What about my shoes?" This shows that kids love attention. People love attention. You gave the girl positive attention, and so the boy wanted it also. Can you not see how this would adversely affect people if it was brought onto the scale of what gender are you? If you gave a small child a ton of positive attention for saying, well, I'm not my gender, I want to be the opposite gender or the opposite sex, what would stop any child from saying, well, I want to be the opposite sex also in order to garner the same positive attention? Seriously, this seems so basic to me, and I don't understand why you can't see it. But that was the end of your video, and subsequently it is leading up to the end of mine. The last point I want to make is gender, sexuality are two very fragile concepts, not in the sense that they can be broken very easily, but because they are so deeply ingrained in the human mind and psyche and our biology and history that trying to change them on such a fundamental level as what you propose in this TED Talk is dangerous to the people that are not already feeling the way you felt, man. A lot of the time, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I feel like this is one of those moments. You want to help people who are like you. I understand that. You want to help like the young people who were confused, who didn't know what they wanted, what they were feeling on the inside, and why they didn't feel comfortable in their own bodies. But this is not the way to go about it. The way to go about this is to give these children support and time and comfort and acceptance, not to tell them it's okay, it doesn't matter because gender doesn't exist, because then you're totally invalidating everything that they might be feeling and everything that people who have already gone through it have felt in the past. Think about this, and I will leave this to you and any trans people who might be listening, and I hope I don't garner a bunch of angry mob haters for this video, because I really am trying to extend an olive branch here. I have people in my life who are trans, and they are very cool people, and I have no problem with people going down this route. But when you spread it to children, and when you try to fundamentally change our ideas of gender, it can be very dangerous. My question to you is, would you, trans people who may be listening, would you have even bothered to go through with everything you had gone through if you were told from day one that it did not matter? Would you have just said okay and lived with the body that you had? Or would you feel like these people are invalidating what you are feeling and invalidating your experience? I think that second one is a little more accurate. And likewise, trying to remove gender would be invalidating the experiences of people who have already transitioned and straight people, which I know we're not supposed to care about straight people's feelings out here, but it's legitimate. If somebody wants to live as a traditional male or traditional female, they should have that right, just as you have the right to change and become whatever it is that you may become. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'd like to thank you for watching, and as always, nothing is black and white. See you soon.